this. Why is Heather Mechanic so sad?
I was talking about your not being fun around. I was just being funny.
Okay. That's just the way it is. It's totally fine. Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are well. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Julie Krause. All right, guys. I hope you are all having a good start to your week. I realized when I was out running tonight and it was in the mid 80s and extremely humid that it actually felt, no, I guess it's not. It's like in the high 80s, but somehow or another it didn't feel as horrible as it's felt, which is pretty sad considering the mid 90s feels worse, I guess. So it was pretty brutal, but I hope people are able to get out and get some miles in, even in the kind of junky weather. So tonight, this is going to be very casual, and I actually would love for people to chime in whenever you want. Just think about it as very conversational, because this is really about, sort of questions we all have for each other, and I don't know that anybody has the right answer or the right solution to every problem. So what I wanted to talk about and sort of, again, leave it open to conversation and discussion is kind of where things are with the sport, where things are with training, questions you guys might have as you're kind of doing this, obviously remotely. I know some people are able to get out and run with some friends here and there, in smaller groups, and I think that's great. I want to answer questions you guys have about kind of where the training group is going, at least for the foreseeable future. And, as we see more and more races, change or reschedule or cancel, obviously there's some inevitable questions about sort of, what's coming next, and hopefully some questions maybe, we can answer for each other. So, with the cancellation, or I'll say going virtual today, of Marine Corps, in case you guys didn't hear, Marine Corps was one of sort of the last big, fall races to sort of one of the lone holdouts, we'll say, after Chicago finally canceled last week, to kind of hold on to what might be coming next. So most of the races are offering virtual options, which, may fit in nicely to what we're doing, with the BE Grand Prix and sort of how the season will go on, through the rest of this training season. Good or bad, we sort of planned for this. The BE Grand Prix was sort of the born out of the expectation that races probably were not going to be held this fall. And that's not because we wished it, it's because we kind of expected it. And so, with that happening, the key for many of us, and I think, I can look around at who's on this call and sort of realize, for most of the people in this group, because we really are a training group and we're not just, just a running group that gets together socially, as a whole, we sort of have multiple aspects to it, but the training is an important piece. And many of us, I'd say, stick with the training program year round, even if we don't, I know a lot of people in our group, season in, season out, say, they're just training to train. They don't necessarily have a race on the horizon that they're planning for. And sometimes that'll culminate and they decide to do a race, or something changes and they do a race. But a lot of us, essentially, I'll say, train to train. And I think that's great. I think it's a sign of the kind of people we are. And I mean that in a good way. I also think it's a sign of, people's commitment to not only their fitness, but their performance, and how they sort of carry themselves in daily life, sort of reflects on how we run or train, as far as this, I think for many of us, is a hobby. So, the idea for the BE Grand Prix was really to keep, these regular events and goals, and to try to keep people focused while still allowing people to sort of train, right? And the idea is the 5K, the 10K, 15K, and then half and or full, depending on how you're going to structure your season, is, these, like, for example, the 5K last week, from a timeline perspective, it completely plays into how training season goes anyway. And so we started thinking about, how can we use these sort of known distances and things that, are very logical and digestible for people, these 5Ks, 10Ks, 15Ks, halves and fulls. Sorry, I don't have to go through it every time I say it. But, how can we use these distances to play into our training where we might not actually be at a race in an organized fashion where it's, with, 500 people or 1,000 people or, 10,000 people, depending on what kind of races you go to, and still make it fun, still make it challenging, and ultimately still be able to sort of benchmark our performance. Because I think, I'll speak for myself. My 5K sucked bad. And, sort of an embarrassment to myself, and thankfully didn't see anybody while I was doing it, because I think it would have been kind of laughable for people to enjoy my humiliation. But it's kind of cool because even when I'm doing it, like, my brain completely shifts, and I get really irritated with myself when I wasn't doing well, which was for roughly 3.1 miles. And, but it does give me, something to shoot for. And it does sort of shift my focus from just being out on a regular run to actually, trying to do something and trying to perform at a certain level. And for that, I really like it. And I think it's, I'm sort of eternally grateful for it. And seeing everybody else do it actually also works for me. I like, checking in with other people and seeing people post their times, and, seeing people say, it was hot or it was hard or, whatever. But I think all of that, interestingly enough, plays very well for the type of people we are. And it pushes us to continue down this path when there is so much that's unknown, right? And and again, I'm a lot of this is speaking from personal experience in this scenario, but I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say some of this. I don't know anything more about you guys, when, not to use a super cliche at this point, but quote, when are things going to return to normal? I don't know. I don't think any of us do. But in the meantime, we have to sort of make some choices, and because of the type of people we are, one of those choices, I think, for many of us, or for all of us, is making this decision about training versus just kind of hanging out and seeing what happens. So I think that there is value here. I think there is I think it's very admirable that people are doing it and getting out the door. You do not, and I see Heather type here, and it's fine if you just get out the door. Absolutely, positively. And one of the reasons, we kind of have two things running simultaneously here. And that is, we have the training program, which you can 1,000%, participate in the training program and not be in the Grand Prix, meaning, you don't have to go do the 5Ks and, and post your times. Or you can just do them and not tell anybody about it. And that's fine too, which is what I'm doing because I don't want anybody to know. But the point is that for many of us, goal-oriented, you need that sort of carrot hanging out there to chase it and sort of see where you are. The other thing is in the value, and even if you don't like post your times, and even if you're not like participating in the Grand Prix per se, using these distances, which is why they appear in the training schedule, using these distances to sort of check in with your performance, that does make sense. And it will continue to make sense as the season goes on. And it's actually something that we may well consider down the road, in the future when things are kind of normal. We may just make this sort of a thing because they make a lot of sense, and they make a lot of sense as far as checking your performance. So, number one is sort of the participation in the training program, and does that work for you? And does it give you something to sort of, reach for and to benchmark against? The other piece is, do you train? No, it was faster than 25 minutes, Heather. And still awful. But the the other piece of this is, training when there's not an upcoming race, meaning like, why am I training versus kind of just like, maybe just taking a season off or hanging out or doing whatever. And I totally get that. And I think that it's reasonable. Many people say like, hey, I just don't want to run right now. Totally fine. But what I'm addressing is the people who do want to do something and training versus just sort of going out on a daily 5-mile run or 4-mile run and saying, is this okay? The answer is that is okay. Fitness, at least in my opinion here, is one of the most important things. Many of us do this to sort of challenge ourselves, this being running marathons and half marathons during our normal lives. We do this because we enjoy the challenge and we like to sort of see how compete, how we can compete against ourselves and even sometimes compete against others, and that's a healthy thing, and I think that's great. The other piece of it for many of us, and as much as I love the competition piece, and sort of literally trying my best to do well, and better my times every time and that kind of thing, is fitness. I mean, I just I don't want to gain weight. I want to stay healthy. I want to feel good. I typically feel better when I'm exercising, even if I feel like garbage when I'm out there doing it. But fitness is a big deal for many of us and a big reason that a lot of us do this, right? And so at the very least, I think it's important, whether you're following a training program like we're doing, or whether you're, sort of doing the BE Grand Prix like we're doing, or you're just getting out there and just getting into miles for the fitness sake. I think that's also equally important. And I would say to all of you, continue to do that for no other reason than, mental sanity. Things are a bit crazy right now, and I think we can all use a little bit of sort of levity in our lives, and sort of the escape of getting out, either by yourselves or even if your thing is with a small group or something, that you're getting sort of that breath of fresh air. I say that as it's so humid and horrible outside, but you know what I mean. Getting away from your desk or getting out of your house now, because many of us are working from home. Most of us are working from home. So, I think it is healthy and smart to do this anyhow. And again, even if you're not, doing like peak level training, get out of the house and get some miles in and sort of enjoy the outdoors, if nothing more to escape from some of the craziness that we're all experiencing, right? So that second piece is sort of mental and physical well-being and mental and physical health. And so I think that's very important. Then the next thing is this idea that you may want to participate in a race, right? And virtual races right now appear to be at least largely the only option we're going to see, at least for the remainder of this year, 2020. Most races that have canceled in-person events have offered virtual option. And for many people, what does that mean? That means getting a medal, submitting your time, maybe getting a T-shirt or some sort of memento from the race, and the sort of idea that you're recording your time, right? And that it's like somebody's paying attention to it and you're submitting it, and that piece for many people is that accountability. So for that piece of it, I can certainly, we can talk about sort of guidance and maybe it's a different time frame or whatever. Most virtual races allow you to complete their event, in sort of a window of time. I might let Caroline speak more to this than I can because I can't remember Boston's time, but sorry, Caroline. But Boston, has a very specific time frame, and Holly is nodding her head, so she might be able to as well speak to it. So I know Caroline was intending to do the virtual Boston. That's why I was bringing it up. But Boston has a very specific window where you have to complete it. Most races do have that. It's usually the week around, a week or two surrounding their event. Thank you, Kathleen. I think that for many of us, the virtual option is a good one, because it gives us that carrot out there. There's this very specific day and time or date or time frame, that we need to do this race, and it kind of keeps us that accountability factor that we're used to, which is like, I'm going to be in a certain place on a certain day at a certain time doing this thing. So for many people, that's the appeal of the virtual marathon or virtual half marathon, which makes complete sense. So, all of this stuff, of course, dovetails back into what we sort of intended with the training program, because we kind of assumed if races were canceled, they would offer a virtual option. If they offered a virtual option, that virtual option would sort of fit into the BE Grand Prix. And so you can kind of use the BE Grand Prix to do your virtual, or you can use the virtual to do the BE Grand Prix. You don't have to do both. So, if you're, I'm going to use Caroline's option again. If you're doing the, Boston virtual in mid-September or early September, you don't have to do that and then do another race, another marathon, let's say on mid-October, just to prove that you did it. You can use that Boston, time, if you will, for your Grand Prix times or numbers. So all this being said, this is playing into, again, a plan that we fully expected. That doesn't necessarily make it great for everybody, and I understand that, but I think it will keep many of us sort of honest and pointed in the right direction. And ultimately, guys, the idea of this entire thing was to create as much normalcy in a very abnormal situation, right? I would love to say that we could, snap our fingers and this would all go back to, running together and running in person and having Saturday plans and Tuesday workouts and all this stuff. And certainly at the moment, that's not an option. But, we continue to also monitor that in the hopes that at some point that we can, still salvage something out of much of this. But in the meantime, I want people to understand, where this came from, where it's going, and then ultimately, let people talk and ask questions. Where is it going? The training program. We're going to continue the training program, through the end of the season for sure. If the opportunity presents itself where we are able to somehow meet in person, we 1000% will. That is important to us, to do that if the opportunity presents itself. But for the foreseeable future, again, we intend to run, sadly apart from each other, but we will continue to put out training calendars. We'll continue to put out, emails weekly. You can read some of my lovely prose on a weekly basis. I know Leslie finds it very engaging to read everything I send. She usually sees it twice because I send it to them first, and then they get to see it again.
Every day, all day long.
Every day, it's so great. But the season will continue as it has. So, and one of the reasons I'm saying this is because for many people, they were in the sort of 6-week trial period, and kind of see what this is like, and that in a good, at least in my opinion, in a good way, given what we can do, and it's not going to change. So it will, we'll continue down that path through the remainder of the season. The season, will be 17 weeks long. We're 6 weeks into 17 weeks, so you have 11 fun-filled weeks left, which is, I can see the happiness in Leslie's eyes that she gets to hang out for another 11 weeks. We will continue, as I said, to monitor anything as anything changes or there are opportunities that exist to mix things up a little bit and offer other opportunities. There is a 10K already on the schedule for August. There will be a 15K in September. And then we're going to kind of have the option, for those who are doing a half marathon as their end goal. There'll be, of course, a half marathon in October, and even the possibility for, full marathon participants to do a 15K half marathon and a full, if that's your wish. Sorry. So that's kind of how things are and how we see them proceeding. I would love for people to kind of bring up some questions, some thoughts, talk about ideas you guys have. We're really open for anything. So if you guys are thinking of things like, hey guys, did you not think about this? The answer might be we did, or the answer might be absolutely we didn't. Great idea. But this is your group. This is not something we just do, even though it may seem like I just write and talk to hear myself talk and watch myself write. It's not true. We do it really for you all and want to see you guys get value out of it. And if you're not getting value out of it, then we're not doing it right. So, we do feel like we're providing something that has value and that has meaning. And so we hope you also agree with that. If you don't, you can talk to Mike or Leslie. If you do see significant value, you can talk to Ahalia and myself, because we're the constructive criticism people. We just like to hear good news. So with that, I'm going to try to shut up for a minute. And you guys, I would love for you to ask some questions. I know Caroline said she had 20 or 30 questions, so we'll let maybe her kick things off. Kidding. But if you guys have questions or thoughts or just want to share something, have at it. Unmute yourselves.
I have 42 questions.
Perfect.
Just kidding.
Are they for me or for Leslie?
Only have 1 to 2.
Cool.
Question number 1. You can also just say, shut up, Caroline. No one's helping you. But
Want me to text that to you right now, or do you want to?
If you feel if you want to, you can. I've got my phone. For people like Ahalia and myself, Kathleen, maybe people who are running the Boston virtual experience, would that be something that you might be able to help us construct our long run plan, since I'm kind of
yeah, for sure. I'm happy to, given that it sort of interesting, as goofy as it sounds, it's almost like the spring pushed to the fall, where Boston happens before the pig would have happened and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm happy to do that. I can start in doing the August calendars. I've got most of August done as of this afternoon. But what I can do, and I'm happy to do it, is I'll add into the full marathon calendar, as we do in the spring, a Boston schedule of long runs. It's still very logical for you to do and this is something that we get asked a lot in the spring as we lead, we have so many people typically do in Boston, and then of course, the pig, and in the schedule, we always put, just the long run. And people always go, well, what do I do during the week if I'm doing Boston? The answer is the same thing. The only shift you would see in that, so that, the speed work still makes sense. Even I'll say the 5K and 10K, 15K stuff still makes sense. As we get closer, we can kind of talk about that, and I can maybe even alter the calendar a little bit. But what I will try to do, so what I could do, so in the monthly calendar, I'll add the Boston long run mileage to the monthly calendar. So you'll see it in August. And then in Team Builder, and you guys remind me before this coming Sunday, but in Team Builder, I'll actually add a workout. I'll add the mileage just for Boston. So it's like right now it says marathon or full marathon, and then it has the mileage, and then half marathon has the mileage. I'll do Boston Marathon and I'll do the mileage, just so it's in there as a separate thing. So you don't have Sorry, everyone. The dog decided it was time to bark. Maya's pissed about Boston, by the way.
Same, Maya. Same.
I don't know what that was. So yeah, just remind me if I say something to you about it. But yeah, I'll add that in, and so you guys will see it as a separate, entry in the calendar. And then as we get closer, as we get into, mid to late August, then we would potentially alter that weekly mileage a little bit, and as far as some of the workouts and stuff like that, because obviously you want to, quote unquote, taper. So that would make total sense. My one question, and you don't all have to answer it right this minute, but I'll ask you, and then I'll ask that you remember it. to kind of tell me later, if you can tell me later, you can tell me now. If the option is to run, between September 7th and September 13th, are you all planning on doing it like on the 13th? Are you planning a different day? Like, are you planning different days? Does anybody know yet? Or you have a plan?
So the timeline, I think, is from a Monday to like the following Sunday or Monday.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like unless I take a day off, I would probably do it that weekend,
Same.
like at the end of
The last weekend, right?
Like
yeah,
the
that
11th or 12th.
Yeah, I mean, is the 12th? Sorry, give me a second. Let me look.
Let me
at
see.
mine.
I was just pulling it. So it's September 7th is a Monday and the 14th is a Monday. So it's a Monday to a Monday.
Okay. So you can actually run it theoretically on the 14th?
Theoretically, yeah. The
Okay.
email 7th to the 14th, I believe.
Because the original rescheduled date was September 14th, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So just in your heads, you guys, just kind of remind me, but you guys are all going to pick times. I'm going to assume the moment that everybody's going to run it that, like 12th, 13th, or maybe the 14th if you choose to do it on the Monday. But I'm going to assume you'll want to push it to that late weekend. You're not going to do it, the week of, let's say, the earlier week. I mean, so
I think look at the weather.
yeah, good point.
True. Good
Oh,
point.
yeah. Good point, Kathleen.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have the option. Yeah. I mean,
We've
very
got
rarely do
7
we have-
days to pick.
Yeah, true.
I'm willing to
Um,
take a day off of work to avoid a heat wave. So
Or a monsoon.
that's
Yeah.
it.
I'm
Well, I
fine to
guess
do
we
a
could-
vacation or a sick day for that.
I guess we can all hope that it's not going to be 38 and dumping. So it's going to be.
Then they're done it.
Yeah, I know. It's I'm saying that like we can assume that. Like I don't know why I would say we would assume that because it's you never know. But September seems to be a little more predictable than April in Boston at least. So yeah, just remind me, guys. But I will try to work that into the monthly calendars before I send them out. So those monthly calendars will come out this Sunday, and then of course the weekly calendars, which are in Team Builder. I'll just add a specific mileage distance for those doing Boston. Okay. Caroline, did you have another question in that same vein, or did I answer it?
That was perfectly answered. And I appreciate your response.
I'm here for you. If I can make your day a little brighter,
You made it shine.
oh yes, I'm sure I did. I'm sure. All right, so that's Boston. Leslie, did you decide yet? Are you doing the virtual? I can't remember. Are you doing virtual Marine Corps? I forget.
No, I didn't sign up for it. No,
I just couldn't
I don't want
remember.
to run full. So if I was going to do one, it'd be a half. I'm currently not signed up for anything.
That's
really
good.
at all.
Are you guys gonna do anything for the pig? Because I was gonna do the half and I'm just gonna do it virtual because I figure I could at least do that on my own and maybe not care about my time, but I didn't know if you guys would do anything for that. Like the support or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not meaning to be dumb, but I was gonna say, what do you mean do something for it? So that wasn't about you. That was more about me. It's like I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding. So let me say a couple things about the pig. Number one, at in the conversation I had with the pig since the actual May race that didn't happen, right? So about a month ago, I had a conversation with the pig ahead of them canceling for the fall. And one of the things that, they asked in the spring, and I'm expecting they will ask again in the fall is, people are going to like go October 11th and they're going to go like, I'm going to go out and run the pig. And they do not want people on the quote unquote course, meaning they don't want people to follow the path of the course. So with a half marathon, interestingly enough, it's actually possible you can run the vast majority kind of uninterrupted. Like, you can either run on sidewalks or, quick street crossings and whatnot. The full marathon, on the other hand, obviously there are parts of the full marathon that you cannot access without having, roads closed and, police presence and that kind of thing. So they were very deliberate in how they asked it and requested that people stay off the course altogether. And I have, again, in that conversation I had with them about a month ago, was very, candid with them and said, I'm certainly not going to encourage people in our group to run on the course, right, on that day. That being said, another one of the reasons that they are asking that is for secondary reason that has nothing to do with the race per se, but everything to do with what's going on in the world, which is they don't want large groups of people gathering at the same place at the same time on the same road on the same sidewalks, because roads would, let's say, obviously not be open, meaning you can't run down the middle of Riverside Drive, for example. They want people on, if they're going to do whatever they're going to do, they want them on the sidewalks. Well, if 1,000 people show up on the same sidewalk on the same day, it just increases risk. Again, this is speaking from current, state of affairs. It just increases risk for those out on the road. So the easy answer is I don't know. But if there are ways for us to safely, reasonably, and appropriately support, the answer is hell yes. I will absolutely do everything and anything in our power to provide some sort of environment in which your world would be made a little bit brighter by having some support. But understand that is with the caveat that I don't know what 11 weeks from now looks like. I just don't. I would have said, and Mike and Leslie can sort of vouch for this, we were doing a lot of work in the background in the hopes that we could return to some sort of in-person meeting, like now. And as, everybody's aware, that would be a big no-no right now, given, the current, scenarios in Hamilton County and Ohio and everything else. So I have an obligation to minimize contact in large groups. So, for the moment, my answer is, I don't see how I can do that, Beth, but the other answer is if the opportunity presents itself and I can, absolutely. So, but just so you understand, the training group still points and everything is planned, mileage and workouts and timing and tapering and all those things. It's all pointed at October 11th. I mean, it still is that. It still will be, everything will still be scheduled for that day. Yeah, Sheila, by the way, did that answer your question, Beth? It was a really crappy answer, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not what I wanted to hear, but it's okay.
I know. It was
what
a
I
little
expected.
It was expectedly non-committal, and it was intentionally non-committal. But understand, I think you understand my reasoning for being non-committal. But my hope is I can change that. So we'll see. To answer, Sheila just asked a question and said, can I help with the full route option for those doing the vert pig? The answer is probably, Sheila. I will do all I can for that to be everything in my power to do so, with the understanding that it may be a route, and this is for a very specific reason, in thinking through this, thinking ahead, a looped route, meaning you would run the same thing potentially more than once. I know that sounds like it might be awful, but there may be some very reasonable reasons for that, primarily hydration, like water, like a place that you can leave water, come back to it multiple times, something like that. But the answer is, I intend, again, sort of following up, as sort of a follow-up to what I was answering for Beth, is that I want to be able to provide as much support as humanly possible. And that would or could include a route option or route options that, can work for people and would be not subject to road closures and things like that. So does that make sense? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm just quickly looking. I'm looking at the other questions. Okay. All right. So I hope that answered the quick ones. Does anybody else have any questions, thoughts, things they just want to share? How about it?
Rick, just to throw this out there, I just saw Carmel posted 3 hours ago that they received permission to hold a scaled down version of their thing. So it's a half marathon, 10K and 5K. That's it. But
When?
October 17th.
So the week after, the Saturday.
Yeah.
I bet you $7 it's not going to happen.
I completely agree.
I might actually raise Caroline's bet.
Just throwing that out there for people who are
So, yeah, no, I think that's, I mean, it's an interesting thing. So, kind of on that note, and I'm curious what other people's thoughts are. This is me just, curiosity. It's very interesting to me that some races are, Carmel, certainly the first I've heard that sort of like is back in the game versus, like just hanging on for dear life. But for those of you who are maybe paying attention to this, you might not be, but Ironman is like a cluster, what. I mean, I've never seen a race organization doing what they're doing, and it is like world of bizarro. Like, I don't know what their end game is, but they like, so what they've basically done is they're sort of like cherry picking races out of the season, not consecutively. So they're not going like beginning of September, then mid-September, then third week of September, they're like early September, and then late October, and then like late September, and then early November. They're just like jumping all over the calendar and canceling races. But then when they cancel the race, and it's not like they're offering virtual Ironman options. So, it's basically like, we're canceling. And when they cancel, they are then turning around and rather than refund options, which they don't have, they are automatically giving you like a laundry list. It's usually 4 options. One is like deferring to the following year, except for the case of Louisville Ironman, because Louisville Ironman now ceases to exist as of the cancellation this year. It's officially off the calendar forever. But with other races like Chattanooga, I think was either canceled yesterday or today. So you can like defer to like 2021 Chattanooga, or you can defer to other random 2021 races. But what they're also doing is they're offering you the option to move your registration to other races still this year that they've yet to cancel. And I'm like, but every week you're canceling another 2 or 3 races. Like, it makes no sense. Like and like I said, that's why the weird part about it is it's not in a timeline. It's not like they're up to like early October and they've canceled everything from early September. I mean, they still have races planned for early October, but they're canceling races in late October. Like, it makes no sense. And so I don't know, like, I haven't heard of other things other than Carmel, like what you just said, Mike, where races are sort of, I don't know what the right word is, like jumping through hoops or holding on for dear life. I mean, there's certainly some races that just haven't canceled, but I'm kind of curious what people, like what their thinking is as they're sort of planning this. Are they hoping it just, I don't know, changes permission? I don't know. Like, it's interesting to me. But.
Well, remember, Carmel, started out by not saying anything for a really long time.
Yeah.
And
they held
then
on for dear life for a while.
Postponed like just 2 months or something like that. And then when it became apparent that June date wouldn't work, then they postponed but didn't give a date.
Right.
And just sat on it for a really long time until they finally said, well, we're thinking about October. but we're not sure. And now they finally said something.
I know their race director sort of casually, only because when Laura won last year, I was trying to get the banner. So he and I talked a lot with me trying to get a hold of the banner when she crossed the finish line. And he seems like a nice enough guy. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell he's doing. It's just interesting. I guess, I don't know. I mean, there's always the question, and I know Caroline and I have actually talked about this a bit, but like, just because there is going to be a race, would you do it? I'm kind of curious what people's opinions are right now about that, because, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, the first thing I said when I saw that, I said, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
I mean, I have the option to do a virtual full marathon and still do any of those events in October in person for free, and then get a discount on next year.
Yeah.
And
a new car.
like all for one. And
yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I would do all of that except for the in-person one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, any and all events I was intending to do have since been canceled. So it's, I don't have that option. I mean, I was registered for both the Pig and Chicago. They happened to be on the same day. They canceled. So it's, so my problem got solved for me. So, I don't know. I mean, it's just an interesting, it's an interesting thing. And I kind of wonder, in the big picture where people, where people are as far as, your plans and whether it's you're going to do a virtual race or you want to do an in-person event and you're still holding out for that. Interestingly, I felt for a long time that the trail races were going to be sort of the barometer for the rest of the running world. And if the trail races could be held, that was going to sort of give people kind of a view of how it could be done, because one, trail races get very spread apart very quickly, and so you have the natural social distancing. The other thing you get with trail races is the significantly smaller numbers to begin with. So there was an expectation that most of the trail races would actually happen, and rightfully so. And then when Badwater canceled, which is probably the most controlled environment trail race there is, and it's a minute number of people in it in a gigantic place. When they canceled, I was like, okay, what? Like that actually came as a surprise to me. That's actually the only race that's done anything that's totally shocked me. Like I was stunned that they canceled it. And I'm not saying it was an irresponsible thing to cancel it. I mean, I think it actually made complete sense, but it surprised me from the standpoint that of all things I thought might happen, that would have been something I thought would have happened.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
This is Laura.
Hi, Laura.
The urban bourbon race that we typically do
Right.
towards the
Louisville.
end of October in Louisville is
Yep.
still going on. They've capped it at I think 2,000 participants. They've moved, so the course was downtown. Well, downtown Louisville is a mess right now, so it's out in the East End in a park, and they're going to have packet pickup is in your car. You will have your temperature taken. You'll drive through to pick your packet up, and then they'll do it in waves. They said from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock. So someone like me, if I get a 10 o'clock time, I'm not done till 1, where everybody else could start at 8 and then be done at 10. So it's a bizarro situation, I think, because it's an out and back kind of route. And there's no big after party, obviously.
Sure.
The bourbon, all that stuff is very controlled as well. And so we've kind of decided we're not doing that one this year because it's just a goofy setup.
You're not doing the race, or you're not doing the bourbon during the race? I didn't understand.
Oh, yeah, not doing the race at all.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I wasn't being stupid. I thought you meant you were doing the race, but you just weren't going to drink the bourbon along the way.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, you could just take some in your water
right, right.
or whatever. Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting because I know there's a couple races out there in the world that are sort of like, I don't want to use the word full steam ahead, but, you know, they're sort of planning their events. And similarly, you know, the big thing that most races are focusing on is the numbers, right? You know, like, you know, they can't have you can't have as many human beings just because of gathering, you know, just people running into each other, literally and figuratively. But you know, one of the big things that, you know, I think races are starting to run into is, and Laura, my wife, not Laura Blackerby, but Laura, my wife, is sitting right over there, and you know, she made, you know, the obvious point, which is, you know, it's not the decision of some of the races in this case. You know, races are subject to communities they're in, the cities they're in, the states they're in. And the regulations surrounding what you can and can't do, whether it's the number of people you can have or whether it's road closures or police presence. I mean, all these things come into play. And, you know, and then, you know, and Laura Blackerby, just saying your last name so you don't think I'm talking to my wife, you know, what you just said about, you know, they're holding this event like on a trail. You know, it's interesting because you get off the road, which provides actually more space. And now you narrow it, you get onto a trail. Trails, in many instances, work well because they're void of lots of spectators and, of course, street closings and all that other stuff that come into play. But the problem is, you know, that you are going to run into physically smaller road, right? You know, so as soon as you get it onto a trail, the road narrows, right, to whatever the trail is. And of course, also logically, they try to do out and backs again because it saves resources and road closures and all these things. But as soon as you put everybody on an out and back, everybody's passing each other, right? So you're actually creating more volume of people in the same space than if you were out on a road not doing an out and back, right? Or even an out and back where you could go on the opposite sides of the street or something. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know that I haven't, you know, I certainly don't have an answer, but it's an interesting concept, you know, whether or not they'll be able to hold these events, you know, reasonably. I don't know. So, and I get it that, you know, a lot of them just want to have their event because a lot of people, it like bums them out that they can't do a race. But I don't know how that, you know, operationally, I think it's going to be a massive undertaking for a lot of these races. And I think potentially a non-starter, but who knows? I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they actually happen. Like, you know, Carmel, for example, you know, it's not a massive race to begin with, but it'll be interesting to see if they can actually physically make it happen. You know, like, can they actually do it? The other interesting piece of the capping of the races is that it sort of comes back to planning, like, you know, how far back did they plan and how, what was their vision when they canceled or planned, you know, for an event down the line. And that is, they are doing this thing where they're like capping the race or limiting the first X number of registrants. But for many of the races, it's the registrants are already there, right? You know, the registrants were already in the race. And so what do? Kick out the last 20 people? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you pull the pecking order backwards? Because, you know, for some of these races, they're like, well, we're going to cap it. Well, how do you cap something that everybody was already in? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm still curious, again, how functionally or operationally these people are going to do it, but I don't know. I mean, I think we're all sort of, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this. From a race directing standpoint, I'm very curious how people are going to pull this off. And I'm still waiting to see somebody do it well, and do it safely, if that makes sense. You know, or what we would deem as safely, right? So, I don't know. We'll see. Leslie, you probably have 2 or 3 questions, don't you?
Well, I could have a question for the group.
He doesn't.
She doesn't.
Hey, I might. I have things to say. Actually kind of have for my own curiosity question for the group, and I don't know if this applies to anyone on this call. Maybe it does. If you're interested in responding, great. If not, okay. But
No, sorry.
I'm just wondering, like, as far as the group goes, like, if there's anyone who is on the fence about continuing on after the 6 weeks, is there anything that we haven't thought of that could potentially make you go, yeah, that's the thing that I'll keep going for? Like, if there's anything that we, any suggestions anyone has that maybe we haven't thought of that could make it worthwhile for
Did you see that?
more yoga.
True.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's not, that's not a bad suggestion, whether it comes from me or Caroline or someone else. But
Caroline
Yeah.
just got super confused. She just noticed the comment. She was like,
just stuff like, just, I guess just sort of a check-in for how you guys
Yeah.
feel like you're doing. And
Yeah.
you don't have to respond to that now, just something to think about.
yeah, I mean, and actually I appreciate that, Leslie. I think, Leslie and Mike and Laura and I, have tried to think of engagement opportunities, given the fact that we can't engage, right? I mean, it's very difficult to create something, I don't want to use the word out of nothing, but, sort of out of nothing. I mean, it's, the way we've gotten accustomed to meeting in person and doing things, quote unquote, together, it's become a thing. And so that's what we all know. And when that's taken away from you, and sort of rethinking it and retooling things, we've done a lot of different stuff, and we've done a lot of things that I think are great. And I think we've done a lot of things that are fine. But overall, we think we've done something to be engaging. Is it? We always want to know, like, are we actually reaching, are we actually accomplishing what we think we're doing, which is making something that is challenging, enjoyable, valuable, and ultimately reasonable given the circumstances. I don't know. Heather's over here just talking. I don't know what the hell's happening. But she is, I think, I think that as long as there are people out there that want to challenge themselves, I think the environment is there. But to Leslie's point, is there something we could do that we haven't done that would make it more engaging for you? Who knows?
So I think something that you guys did during the lockdown that was actually really beneficial to me personally, and kind of takes on Heather's comment about the yoga, but the YouTube videos that were out there. I did the yoga on my in my living room so many times, just to kind of like do like a post run thing, and then the BE food project. That kind of stuff was really, really engaging. And I know a lot of people took advantage of it, because as I was like, oh, I tried this recipe or I did this, people were like, yeah, me too. So just, something I definitely think the team builder stuff is great. It's actually easier to do like a decent warm up, and when you kind of got that there in your team builder. I was used to using it from the virtual training. So really, really pressing that. But then the YouTube stuff was just a lot of fun, and it kept, a level of engagement. I know it's probably also a lot of work.
It is, but I actually think, to your point, I asked Laura the other night if, I'm going to lean over and look at her. She looks very, she's kind of looking at me weird. I have to get Laura back in the kitchen. You want to get back in the kitchen and do, oh, she just very, very staunchly flipped me off. So that may be a maybe. So if anyone else would like me to film them cooking, I'm happy to do it. No, but I actually sort of agree with you, Julie. So, no, we do want to do some of that stuff. FYI, I'm not trying to sell you on going back to things you've already done, but everything that we ever put on YouTube is still there. You know, and we've actually cleaned it up a little bit, and it's a little better organized than it used to be. So it is still there. We actually have some other stuff we can add to it, and we intend to add to it. We filmed a lot of stuff actually back in March, early March. I think it was very early March, just before like official quarantine. And we never actually posted it. So I need to edit it.
Quality content.
There was some really quality content. Caroline got a little more screen time than we intended. And Mike is a fantastic pupil of yoga and stretching and fitness. I mean, he's very good at it.
I can bend myself into a stick.
Yes, roughly this. He can do this a lot.
Yeah. More than
But we do have some of that, fairly good amount of stuff actually that I can put on there. Again, I just need to edit it. And then, you know, we would like to do some other stuff too. So, I mean, I'm not being dumb when I say this, Julie. If there's some other things you would like to see, please, you know, ideas are always welcome, because a lot of that stuff was just born out of like quickly thinking of things like, hey, what can we do? Like, you know, let's make some stuff, like this will be fun. And it was fun. I mean, it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it is fun. But at the same time, I want it to also be something that people would actually find value in, right? I mean, you know, I don't mind producing something that, you know, 3 people see, because I got, you know, somehow I got a big kick out of myself doing the food project things just because I thought I was hysterical, even though I'm not funny at all. But I also want the content to be something that people would find engaging and find meaning and value in. So, you know, I completely get it and agree with you. If there is a way to make stuff that you would like, let me know too.
We could, I mean, we could potentially, I'm not sure if we have the resources to do it, but we could potentially try to do like a live Zoom yoga or stretching or something if people are interested in that.
Yeah. Well, we
I
can
don't
do.
know if I have the technical resources to do it, but if we could, you know, if I can set up at BE or something.
Well, with having, so with our YouTube channel, we can actually do YouTube Live. So we can actually do it on our YouTube channel if we want to do that. I've never done it, Leslie, but I'm happy to investigate it. But we do have that option, and apparently it works fairly well from what, well, as dumb as
I've done
I was just-
Zoom through the studios I teach at. I've done Zoom and it works well.
You've done Zoom, like specifically Zoom, like
Like
this?
I've taught on Zoom and it works. You can borrow my tripod.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I have tripods and all kinds of stuff. And
Or you could just teach the class, Caroline.
Oh, yeah, I can do that too.
She's
We can
right.
do it.
She's right. The other thing is, what was I supposed to say? I just had something really awesome to say. Well, one, we can obviously use Zoom. I have the Zoom account. 2, we can use the YouTube Live. It's a little, I think YouTube Live and using Zoom is a little less cumbersome than Facebook Live, because once Facebook Live is like, you end it, it only can live on Facebook without getting super complicated. See you, Rich. Sorry, you didn't hear me before. So, you know, that's the only thing, is it can get a little complicated as far as how to get that video off of Facebook and use it. It's very difficult, actually. So, but yeah, we can, I agree. I think it'd be kind of fun to do a live one if somebody's up for it. It certainly isn't going to be me. I'm happy to film it or otherwise assist with it, but you, God help me, Leslie and Caroline will vouch, you don't want to see me doing yoga at all, ever.
LL Cool J and I will figure this out.
Sweet. Very cool. Anybody else? La 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 la. No, is there an online store for gear? I assume you mean BE stuff? Sorry. No. Yeah, yes and no. So you may have noted during the season every now and then. So Eric, Oliver will post sort of every now and then some links to some tanks and tops and shirts and various things during the season. I will tell you so that's every now and then because they're quote made to order. So like the window of opportunity to buy them comes up, the order goes in, it gets produced, and then you get it. I'm happy to investigate a little further on what that is, but there's some gear at BE, and you can always. Oh, Heather, you didn't get yours yet? Interestingly.
I have not.
It's all something.
They said July, so it's July.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know it's supposed to be July. I'm just curious. I thought a couple of people got them last week, so.
Ooh, okay.
I might be wrong, but I think so. But give it a couple days and see, and we'll check.
I'm holding out that it's going to make me super fast.
Oh yeah, clearly. Absolutely. But the other thing is, Aaron, the thing nobody's talked about, but I'll include some stuff this week. The socks, we are producing. Everybody who is in the group, coming up, we'll get 2 pairs of socks. We did custom socks, and those are in the process of being like done. So any day, and we're expecting those in the next week, couple weeks, hopefully, and then we'll get those out to everybody. So those are kind of cool, kind of fun, and we may do some other stuff, but there's not a lot of what I was going to say, Aaron, is we don't have a lot of we'll say stocked merchandise that we kind of have on a regular basis. We do stuff every now and then we kind of have it hanging out. So I can certainly keep people apprised when Eric does another kind of make to order thing, and we can let people know about that. So, and it also depends on what you want. I don't know if you're looking for something specific or just kind of want to know in general. So
I'm back on the mic. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know in general because I don't have any BE gear and was thinking of maybe picking something up, but I'm in no particular hurry or anything. So
yeah,
that all
well,
sounds good.
and we have some stuff from previous seasons as well that I can let people know about. We have gooder sunglasses, we have neck gaiters, we have arm sleeves, we have some hats. Some winter hats, which I don't think anybody needs right now, that's for sure. And I'm trying to think of what else we have. So we have some other things as well, but not a ton of what I'll call clothing, not shirts and tops and things. I don't know what Caroline's doing over there. But definitely some things to come down the road, for sure. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts, things they would like to share? Julie Krause, I rode my bike down Delta Avenue the other day, saw your house and the door, and I waved at it.
Oh, thank you for waving at my pink door.
It was nice. It was lovely. I'm trying to remember, who did I say? I feel like I'm trying to remember, like I was driving too. Oh, I know. Yeah, and then I drove by the other day. Yes, I drove by the other day and I saw it. And I was like, there it is. Sorry. I was spacing out. I was like, I know I saw it more than once, and that's why I couldn't remember.
Did the yard look okay? I mean, I feel like
it looked great. Everything looked fantastic.
Solid. We're working on it.
And I truly enjoyed your post about the a-hole who happened to be next door, your next door neighbor.
Yeah. So next time you are riding in the area, you should come by and check out the trees in the backyard that shade my beautiful deck, and that they want to. I actually had people over yesterday for a grill out. My dad, in fact. who I should have consulted about the trees, apparently.
Right, of course. Well, he would know, you would not.
Obviously not. Why would I have any idea of like real estate law? Nothing. None of that. Nothing.
Not only are you not smart enough, you're not capable enough.
Well, I'm just a silly little girl, Rick.
Of course. You're a silly little girl who could do all of these things for me better than I could ever do them. So
Oh, we all got a good kick out of that.
it was pretty funny. I thought your post was fantastic, so it cracked me up.
Thank you. I had fun writing it. I did not have
I'm
fun
sure.
living it.
I felt that you had fun writing it. I could kind of feel it in the way you wrote it. It was worth it. It was worth the read. It was good. All right. Does anybody else have any thoughts, questions, ideas, things they would like to say, things they would like to not say? I'm trying to read Leslie's hat.
There's aloha.
Oh, aloha. Sorry, I was
It
like,
means hello.
And
And
goodbye.
goodbye.
It's the Great Aloha Run from 2014.
that was a good year.
That's the year I went to Hawaii.
It was the year that I lived there and ran this lovely race. But
I almost-
everyone asked if I was running the marathon. When I told them I was running the Honolulu Marathon, they're like, "Oh, you mean the Great Aloha Run?" I'm like, no,
No, not that one.
no, they're totally different.
I remember one time I almost went to Hawaii to visit.
No, you
Leslie.
didn't. You went to Alaska because you
True,
hate me.
true. No.
But in
Oh,
other
I
news,
picked you up from the airport with fish in your backpack.
That's true. A very large frozen fish. I
in
still
other
don't know why
news,
the hell we did that, but that was.
Kathleen wants to run from side to side.
Yeah, what was that, Leslie? I mean, Kathleen, sorry. Oh, I see. East to west side. I see now. East to west side and west to east side run.
All in one run.
Yeah, in other words, run from
It's like
whatever.
rim to rim to rim to rim. It'll be side to side, side to side.
Okay.
I feel like this is a dance or something, like a song.
It's like Ariana Grande. Side to side.
Wow.
Just
It's like the
a
waltz.
challenge. Just a challenge, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, I'm not.
I've done it.
I'm sure you have. How many miles is said run, or do you have a route specifically that you?
It depends on where you would start. I know Westwood to a Bryanville and back is a 20 miler, but it depends on depends on where you want to go.
Yeah. Well, nobody lives on the west side, so you'd have to start on the
Yeah.
east side and run to the west side and then back.
Well, you could cross paths, there's a few of us over here.
Oh, there are? I didn't know anybody lived
Yeah,
on the
just
west
a
side.
few.
I've never seen anybody out when I'm over there.
Yeah, that's because you've never come over that. You don't come that often. So
I'm so scared. I have no idea where the hell I am when I'm over there. I remember while I was coming back from, when I broke my wrist or did whatever I did to my wrist, one of my doctor's appointments was actually on the west side. And I was driving back and I totally took a wrong turn and I was driving. I'm like, where the hell am I? And I'm driving down the street and all of a sudden on my left, I see West Side Brewing. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where I am.
There you
It's like
go.
the only thing I know. It was like, I was literally like just driving down some random street that I completely turned down the wrong way. And then all of a sudden there's West Side Brewing. I'm like, oh, it's like the only thing that I know over here. This is fantastic. So it was kind of funny. And I knew exactly how to get back, oddly enough, from there, which is weird.
actually, you could just stay on one road.
I know.
Madison Road. Just stay on Madison. It becomes MLK. It becomes Hopple to Western Northern.
Yep. I know. It's what got me back to where I live.
Yep.
I was scared and confused, but I got back.
There's our route.
There
There
you
it
go.
is. Madison. It's gonna suck, but here we go.
Yeah, it actually would.
Yeah, there's a freaking crappy hill on that route, actually.
There's a few.
Yeah, there's a couple brutal ones. Yeah, that would be a really tough route. It's very hilly. Not that they're all going to be kind of hilly, because there's not a lot of ways to get from the west side to the east side and or vice versa without going up hills. All right. Anybody else? Are you waving?
Just waving goodbye.
Is Carol? Okay, Carol.
Long farewell.
The last
Fingers
pillow is
in the
looking good, by the way.
It's bedtime. My pillow and I are tired.
Figured. All right, guys. Well, thank you for being on the call. If anyone has any questions or, stuff, as we go forward, please let me know. In the meantime, I will hopefully see all of you next week. I'm trying to think. Oh, and Thursday night when we're drinking beer on the same bat time, same bat channel, actually not same bat time, same bat channel, different bat time, and more of this.
Other people will talk on Thursdays too.
Hot box pizza.
Yeah.
Join us. It's so fun.
Ah.
This is my collection of these things.
Oh, he's gonna start telling the story, so I'm out.
All right, everyone, go away now. Bye.
Jackass. Sorry. All right, guys. Have a good week. Good to see everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.